Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. We have all seen it. We have all used it. Generative artificial intelligence. You type a sentence into a box and a stunning original piece of art appears. You ask a complex question and you get a perfectly written, convincing essay in seconds. The public has been told that this is a story of pure technological innovation, a form of digital magic that promises a future of unbelievable creativity and productivity. But what if I told you that this multi-trillion-dollar revolution, with companies like OpenAI being valued as high as $90 billion, is built on a lie? Or to be more precise, on a heist. This narrative of magic deliberately leaves out the foundational act upon which this entire industry is built. The largest and most audacious act of intellectual property appropriation in human history. Okay, so let's get into it. Today we're gonna pull back the curtain. We're gonna talk about the artificial intelligence industry's original sin, the mass, uncompensated, and unauthorized scraping of nearly the entire creative and intellectual output of humanity. Millions of copyrighted books, articles, artworks, and even our personal data were copied and ingested without permission or payment. And now the creators of the world's knowledge and art are coming to collect, filing a wave of landmark lawsuits that threaten the very existence of the models built on their work. This is not only a story about technology, it is a battle for the future of creative professions, the structure of the internet, and the balance of global power. So grab a coffee, get comfortable, and so let's talk. So how do you build an artificial intelligence? The secret ingredient, the fuel for the engine, is data, a staggering amount of data. And to get it, these AI labs unleash something called a web scraper. This is not just like a person browsing the internet. Imagine a fleet of invisible, tireless robots, automated software tools crawling across the web 24/7, systematically downloading everything they can find at a speed no human could ever achieve. And these are not simple tools. Modern AI powered scrapers can mimic human behavior, bypass traditional anti bot defenses, and navigate complex websites, making the extraction process nearly impossible to stop. This industrial harvesting created massive data sets that form the bedrock of almost all modern artificial intelligence. Two of the most famous are called Common Crawl and Lion. Common Crawl is a nonprofit that maintains a free open library of the internet. It contains over 300 billion web pages collected since 2007, with billions more added every month. It is so massive that over 80% of the training data for OpenAI's famous GPT-3 came from a filtered version of it. Crucially, Common Crawl itself admits that its dataset inherently includes vast quantities of copyrighted material. Lion is similar, but for images. It is an index of nearly 6 billion image text pairs from the web, and it was foundational for image generators like Stable Diffusion. Lion's method is particularly clever from a legal perspective. The German nonprofit does not host the copyrighted images themselves. Instead, it provides a massive list of URLs pointing to the original images online. This effectively outsources the final act of downloading to the developer, while Lion claims it is protected under European rules for scientific research. Now, here's the kicker. These datasets were built on a simple, legally dubious assumption. If it is on the public internet, it is fair game. They did not ask for permission. They did not pay for it. They just took it. Think about the old deal we had with search engines like Google. It was a symbiotic relationship. Their crawlers would scan our sites, and in return, they sent us traffic and potential revenue. Generative artificial intelligence adopted the same scraping technology, but severed this crucial link of reciprocity. It takes the data, synthesizes it, and then presents it as its own, capturing all the value and sending nothing back to the original creators whose work made it possible. The open web was turned from a public square into an unguarded resource for industrial extraction. And what is actually in these datasets is a mess. Researchers call it a crisis in data provenance, the ability to trace where data actually comes from. A landmark audit of over 1,800 text datasets by the Data Provenance Initiative uncovered what it termed a crisis in license laundering. On popular platforms like Hugging Face, over 72% of datasets had their licenses listed as unspecified. For the datasets that did have a license, their error rate was over 50%, with researchers finding that 2/3 of the licenses they analyzed were in a different, often more permissive category than the original author intended. This is not just sloppy, it is a system. It is a form of data laundering that creates plausible deniability. An AI lab can claim it used a publicly available dataset without confronting the fact that the ultimate source was a mass, unauthorized stream of copyrighted material. And it is not just copyrighted books and art. The same indiscriminate scraping ingested vast amounts of private information. Audits have found hate speech, sexually explicit content, and personally identifiable information like medical records, resumes, and even passports. In one horrifying case, the Lion 5V dataset was found to contain links to child abuse imagery, that which is terrible. So that is the crime scene. The entire intellectual output of humanity vacuumed up without permission to build the most valuable companies in the world, but now the creators are fighting back. For years, this happened quietly in the background, but then ChatGPT launched, and suddenly everyone could see what these models were capable of, and the people whose work was stolen, they noticed. This brings us to what might be the case of the century. The New York Times versus OpenAI and Microsoft. The Times alleged that millions of its articles, many behind a paywall, were used to train ChatGPT. They claimed this was not just random. The artificial intelligence companies gave their high-quality journalism particular emphasis during training, and they brought receipts. In their complaint, they included a section called Exhibit J. It is a smoking gun. They showed over 100 examples where they could prompt ChatGPT and get it to spit out near verbatim copies of their copyrighted paywall articles. This shatters the industry's claim that the models could only learn concepts. No, this was memorization and reproduction, the very definition of copyright infringement. Independent academic research has since confirmed that verbatim memorization is a known phenomenon in large models, and that the articles from Exhibit J are significantly more memorized than a baseline sample of news articles. The case has already survived initial motions to dismiss, and in a contentious move, the court has ordered OpenAI to preserve user chat logs that it would normally delete after the Times alleged the company was systematically destroying evidence. And it is not just giant corporations. A rebellion is brewing among individual creators. Authors like Sarah Silverman sued, alleging their books were illegally downloaded from shadow library websites like Library Genesis and Z Library and fed into the models. However, these cases have faced hurdles. Courts have dismissed some claims because the authors failed to prove substantial similarity between a specific artificial intelligence output and the original book, which is a very high legal bar to clear. Visual artists are waging a similar battle against image generators like Stable Diffusion and Midjourney. They allege these models were trained on billions of their images without consent, enabling the artificial intelligence to mimic their unique styles and directly compete with them. And then there is Getty Images. They sued Stability Artificial Intelligence for infringing on over 12 million of their photos. Their key piece of evidence: the AI model was reproducing distorted, mangled versions of the Getty Images watermarks on its outputs. Just like with the Times articles, that watermark is powerful proof of direct copying, not just abstract learning. This fight is not just happening in the courts, it is happening on the picket lines. The historic Hollywood strikes in 2023 were fundamentally about artificial intelligence. The Writers Guild of America secured a contract that says artificial intelligence cannot be credited as a writer, preventing studios from devaluing human writers. They also explicitly reserved the right to sue over the use of their material to train artificial intelligence models in the future. SAG-AFTRA, the Actors Union, won groundbreaking protections over their digital likeness. Studios now need explicit consent and must pay an actor for each specific use of their artificial intelligence generated voice or face. This is a powerful strategy of creating law by contract, establishing protections that do not even exist yet in federal law. This is a unified front. The era of the free data buffet is officially over. The creators have come to collect. So faced with this massive legal lawsuit, what is the artificial intelligence industry's defense? It really comes down to two arguments. One is legal, and the other is basically blackmail. The legal argument is fair use. In United States copyright law, there are 4 factors to decide this: the purpose and character of the use. The second one is the nature of the copyrighted word. The third is the amount of word used, and the fourth is the effect on the potential market for the original work. AI labs focus almost entirely on the first factor, which is the purpose and character of the use, and claiming that their use is transformative because they're arguing that using a book to teach a machine statistical patterns about language is a completely different purpose from a human reading the book for enjoyment. And some early court decisions actually described this as quintessentially transformative, but then came a massive Supreme Court ruling in 2023 where Andy Warhol Foundation versus the Goldsmith, the court basically narrowed the definition of transformative use, especially for commercial products. They said the real question is whether the new work serves the same or highly similar purposes as the original. The US Copyright Office has agreed, stating that if a model is trained to produce content that competes with the original, the use is at best modestly transformative. So when the legal argument falters, they pivot to the economic threat. In testimony to the United Kingdom House of Lords, OpenAI has basically said that it would be impossible to train today's leading artificial intelligence models without using copyrighted materials, implying that if they are forced to pay for data, the race to build advanced artificial intelligence will be over. So let's be real for a second. The cost of building these models are astronomical, but data is not the big ticket item. Training GPT-4 is estimated to have cost over $100 million in compute power alone. Google's Gemini Ultra likely cost $191 million. These costs are projected to grow 2.4 times per year, with the largest training runs costing over $1 billion by 2027. A cost breakdown shows that hardware accounts for 47 to 67% of the budget, with R&D staff costs making up another 29 to 49%. Their argument is that they can spend billions on everything else, but the one raw material that is the product of human culture and creativity, that has to be free. It is not a plea of poverty, it's a demand for perpetual subsidy from the creative economy. And here is the ultimate hypocrisy. While their lawyers are in court arguing that a viable market for licensing training doesn't exist, their business teams are out there creating one. The global market for artificial intelligence training data is projected to grow from $2.68 billion in 2024 to over $11.16 billion by 2030. OpenAI signed a deal with News Corp for about $250 million and is paying Reddit around $70 million a year for its data. Did y'all know that? Google is paying Reddit about $60 million a year. They are single-handedly proving the creator's point. By signing these deals, they are admitting that a market exists and that scraping for free directly harms the market by usurping licensing opportunities. Their own business strategy is systematically destroying their own legal defense. In this light, licensing is not an unbearable cost. It is a form of insurance against a court forcing a ruinously expensive reset where they would have to destroy their models and start over. When the legal and economic arguments are not enough, the artificial intelligence industry plays its final card: national security. This is the geopolitical gambit, the China card. The argument, advanced by influential figures like former Google CEO Eric Schmidt, goes like this: China has no problem with intellectual property theft and will have no scruples about using the world's copyrighted material to train its artificial intelligence. If United States companies get bogged down in copyright lawsuits, they will inevitably fall behind, ceding the future of this transformative technology to a rival. It is an argument for patriotic piracy. This is a powerful argument because it taps into real anxieties, and the world is fragmented. The United States was banking on permissionless innovation and the ambiguity of fair use. The European Union has strict laws like the Artificial Intelligence Act, giving creators the right to opt out of data mining and requiring transparency from developers who want to access the European Union market. And China is state-driven, prioritizing winning the AI race above all else. But think about what it would mean to accept this argument. It means abandoning America's foundational commitment to intellectual property rights just to mimic the behavior of a competitor. It would make it hypocritical for the US to condemn Chinese piracy in other industries while sanctioning it in artificial intelligence. More fundamentally, it means destroying the economic incentives for human creativity. If journalists, artists, authors can no longer make a living, where will the next generation of high-quality training data come from? You basically are risking destroying the golden goose to get a few free eggs. And as you're about to see, this is not just an ethical problem. It is an existential threat to AI itself. So, what is the end game? The path we're on leads to some strange and dangerous places. First, there's a technical problem that scientists are now warning about called model collapse. Some call it generative inbreeding or Habsburg artificial intelligence. As the internet becomes polluted and flooded with artificially intelligent generated content, future artificial intelligence models will inevitably start scraping and re-ingesting that synthetic data for their own training. They start learning from the statistical averages and quirks of their artificial intelligence predecessors, not from the rich, diverse, and messy reality of human creation. Each generation gets worse, like making a photocopy of a photocopy. The models forget rare knowledge and minority perspectives, and their outputs become increasingly bland, repetitive, and detached from reality. To avoid this degenerative spiral, artificial intelligence has a fundamental ongoing need for a constant stream of new, high quality human generated data. This makes paying creators not a matter of charity, but a matter of long term business survival for the artificial intelligence industry itself. They are poisoning the very well they need to drink from. Second, the data heist is forcing the end of the open web as we know it. The implicit social contract of the internet has been broken. In response, publishers are throwing up hard paywalls, which could create a less informed public. Creators are moving beyond the honor system of robots.txt files, which are often ignored, and deploying sophisticated bot detection to block AI crawlers. And some are even going on the offensive with tools like Nightshade, which act like poison for AI models. It subtly alters pixels in an image so that if an AI trains on a poisoned picture of a dog, it might learn to label it as a cat, corrupting its own data and degrading its performance. We're entering a technological arms race, and the result is a balkanized internet of walled gardens and digital fortresses. So, what is the solution? What solution did I come up with? The industry has a false choice that they're showing. Either let us scrape for free or we kill innovation. But there is a third path, a future built on mandated transparency where artificial intelligence companies have to disclose what they use for training. A future built on proactive volunteer licensing where data is treated as a valued resource to be paid for, just like computer chips and programmers. And a future where creator organizations build collective licensing bodies like ASCAP for music to make this process efficient for everyone. The great artificial intelligence data heist has brought us to a crossroads. One path leads to endless lawsuits, a closed internet, and artificial intelligences that eventually eat their own tails. The other, more difficult path leads to a sustainable partnership between human and machine intelligence, one where innovation does not have to be built on theft. This is one of the most important debates of our time, and it is happening right now. It will define not just the future of technology, but the value we place on human creativity itself. So, what do you think? So, is training artificial intelligence on copyrighted material a fair use, or is it theft? And what kind of future do you want to live in? So those are the questions. Those are the two questions. And if you made it to the end, let me know your thoughts down in the comments. And because this is a situation and a conversation that we all need to be a part of. Thanks for watching, everybody. And until next time.